know we've come a long way.
Yeah, it's
Come
fun
a
though.
long way from just talking.
So Joe, thank you for coming on the show. Thanks for making your way all the way up to Huntington to sit down with us.
All the way.
All the way. I mean, Long Beach. That's not a short trip.
I always tell people I have a car. I'll travel anywhere. you know, as long as that when I get there, I either get fed, or good hospitality, or warm studio, or something that really welcomes me.
All right. Well, we'll be sure to feed you after this.
Okay.
I guess just for the people who are watching, give us a brief introduction into who you are and what you do for work.
So my name is Joe Sinnona, and I've been a real estate broker, owner, salesperson, agent, whatever you want to call me, in the real estate space for almost 37 years. This is my 37th year.
Wow.
And I love it. I love it since the first day I was challenged at the age of 19 to go into this crazy business. And it was through a friend that sold my mom a house, told me to put this on my resume. So I thought I was never going to do this full time, and here I am full time, 37 years later, enjoying the world of real estate. I was a teacher before that.
Okay.
In the New York City public school system. So my short-lived career was 7 months into the system, and it wasn't for me, and I knew it wasn't for me because the system just didn't allow a good atmosphere, not just for the kids, but for the teachers. Mm-hmm. And it's still the same way it was 37 years later.
It's got to be difficult to manage a good system for millions of people.
Yeah, and it's micromanaged by a lot of people, and what's wrong with the system right now, we could critique it and dissect it, but we still see the same stuff going on, the same politics, and that's what's wrong with the system.
I find it interesting that you're back to teaching.
Yes.
Not as a not formal educator and teacher, but you've come full circle now through your entire career, getting to this point where you feel the most important thing you can do right now is to educate that next generation.
Well, I wanted to go back to teaching in some format or another because I enjoy it. And when I started teaching real estate, which was about 22, 23 years ago, I said to myself, I'm going to try to make a difference in pre-licensees and just change their mindset about the business, because I felt that there was a disconnect even there. And, people that get into real estate get into it for the wrong reasons. Even today, when I hear people saying, I want to dabble in real estate, that's their operative word. And I say to myself, I just cringe. I say, why are you dabbling in real estate? You're supposed to throw your heart and soul into it like I have.
Why do you think it is that people think they can dabble in, I guess in anything? But
it's
in real
obvious that they see these fantasy television shows. I always say, and I'm like, that's not what we do. Even the portrayal of real estate agents, actors that portray real estate agents in these shows, it's just so convoluted and so, I don't know, there's a distortion of what we do. It's make believe, it's fantasy, and you can't sell a home out of a limousine and think you're going to close it in 1 hour. That's the fantasy. And that a lot of people, I think, are too caught up in that they say to each other, hey, you know what? I'm going to make $1 million, and this is a get-rich-quick scheme. And I'm like, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not what I do. I mean, far from what, the next agent does or one of my other colleagues do. And I say colleague and not competitor because we all are colleagues in this business. And some of us get it, and some of us still are playing out that fantasy in our head that we're going to be in that limousine selling homes and looking good on social media, et cetera,
I have a lot of conversations with different business owners in different spaces. And that's a thing that it's not unique to real estate. I think that it's probably more prevalent in real estate that people think, I can just do this with a little bit of effort and with my network, and maybe they can sell a couple of homes a year if that's what they want to do, but they're probably not doing it to the best of their ability or the best way.
this is truly being in one's business and owning a business and running it the way it should be and serving the public. That's the first and foremost objective of any real estate agent, is to serve the public, to show the public that you're ethical through the code of ethics. In general, being a very good person. I hate to say it that way, but in order to do this business, you have to operate with a high level of integrity and a high level of intelligence. There are agents out there that get a license, and then they're forced every 2 years to renew that license through some course that they took here or some course they took here. I also teach the specialty classes, and I think every agent should have a specialty. They should be either a seller's representative specialist. They should be an accredited buyer representative. These are designations that come straight to us from the National Association of Realtors. And if they want to specialize in working with senior citizens, which by the age of 50 in this country, you are considered a senior citizen. So wherever you want to specialize in that category, you can get an SRES designation as well. So I decided about a few years ago that I was going to teach all three. But I first had to get all three in order to teach it, to understand how to teach it. And it's been great because the National Association of Realtors gave us that opportunity last year to teach the ABR, the Accredited Buyer Representative class. And with all the changes that came from the National Association of Realtors with their, lawsuits, et cetera, I was able to teach over 600 students last year. And it was a great experience for me because it really gave me greater insight into the mindset of real estate agents. And what I've discovered is that every real estate agent needs more help than I thought they did.
I think all people need more help than you think they do. What is it that's most common that a new agent or just agents in general that you're teaching maybe are lacking that you thought they might not have been lacking?
I think one has to be coachable. That's the first step in being coached. You have to be coachable, and you have to do a lot of listening, less talking, and allow trust of the person that's coaching you or mentoring you in the business. There are a lot of agents that they get coached for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they walk around like they know it all. And those agents are not the agents that will survive in the business. The first year of real estate is a business, and it takes about a good year of learning. So a lot of agents don't like to be patient. That's the second lesson that we learn. So being coachable, having patience, the trust in the mentor, that's so important because if you don't have any of the above, then you're not going to survive in this business.
Yeah. I think that, being coachable is so important for, I keep bringing it back to everyone, right? In all areas of life, but in any business and that's why I, have these conversations is like, and your lessons are applicable to me, right? They're applicable to anyone who owns a business who's listening to this. You just happen to be in the business of real estate, but you've spent almost 37 years now developing this code of ethics for yourself, developing these frameworks for you to educate other people. I would love to take it back to where you started and how did you, I know you said you started coaching, you started in the teaching world for 7-8 months before you left and got into real estate. What do those first, handful of years look like?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
What are you doing? Where are you?
I was 19 and I was I went to Manhattan College and my alma mater, the Jaspers, and it was a great learning experience. And then I went to student teaching and I graduated early from Manhattan College. I had been given a scholarship before I started there, and I wanted to major in business. That was my first major. And I must have changed it several times just to get into the School of Education, and landed a job at 141, PS 141 on Independence Avenue in the Bronx. And quickly realized that there was a politic to teaching and to be careful. And I was warned that the head of the Board of Ed came and did these surprise inspections. So I had a habit of leaving my door open. And my principal at the time, his name was Dr. J. Norwood. God rest his soul. He passed away shortly after I left there.
Wow.
And he told me, he says, just be careful, do your thing. You're a great teacher. He believed in me. And one of the things that when he observed me, he said, you know, you have this great ability of telling a story. He says, you tell it so well. You describe every detail to that story that it almost feels like as if, you know, where you're in the same room with that person, even going back years, you know. So I take people back, you know, to show them the lessons of either this business or even the things they need to know in this business. And so when that one day finally came, I call it the day of my Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a wood, you know. That day came like a fury. I went inside the classroom, and for whatever reason, the kids were just so out of control. Maybe they had a little too much sugar that morning, I don't know. But they were, you know, just loud as can be. One was, a young lady was putting on her makeup on this side. Two kids were choking each other on this side. It was just comical, but at the same time, you know, I was trying to get some order in the classroom, and when I finally had enough and the door was open, I went to the back of the room, and there was empty desks over here and I picked one up and I threw it sideways to the other side of the room. No kids were harmed in this experiment, but I was like, okay, now I got your attention. Everything came to a halt, and one of my students went, and I turned around and I saw him, and there he was, the head of the Board of Ed, who I had been warned about to close the door to the classroom, because, see, they can't come into the classroom unless you open that door. So he wrote me up. He said, he goes, I will see you at the principal's office at 2 o'clock today. And I just turned this way and I went, because I knew that was the end of my career. I just knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the principal's office, and he gave me a choice. He said, take a leave of absence or quit. Those are your choices. And this was a man who never had any teaching experience, I was told later. And Dr. J was really upset. He says, you threw out your career today. I says, you know what? No. I have a license. I just got it over the summer. I'm going to do real estate. I'm going to be a real estate agent. He goes, oh my God. He put his hands on his head. He almost had a stroke right then and there. And I said to him, I said, look, I'll be back in a year. He says, no, you won't. He says, your career is probably going to take you further in selling. And he knew, and he knew. And about 6 months later, he passed away. And I knew that was my time to get my together and become a very big real estate agent in my town, which is Long Beach. And I said, this is it. I got to go door to door. I have to do what I need to do to get some business into this little business called Joe Sinnona. And I pretended there was a real estate sign. I was working at a brokerage, and I pretended there was a real estate sign over my head. And I was watching The Honeymooners one night. And I saw that door-to-door episode where, you know, the character of Norton sells irons. And, you know, and he sells these irons. And he says to his wife, she says, how many irons did you sell today? And he says, I only sold one iron. And he says, she says, do you remember what you said? And I was listening intently, because it's the first time I ever saw the episode as a salesman, you know. And he says, yeah, I said, Mommy, you just have to buy an iron from me. And she says, oh my God, you sold an iron to my mother. He says, no, Trixie, I sold an iron to my mother. Tomorrow it's your mother. And I realized, I said, well, wait a minute. I said, he's giving up and I can't give up. But the idea of going door to door was very novel. nobody wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the wintertime. So I went out in the winter. And that's how I established my relationships with all the neighbors that I wanted to. And it was pretty much the little senior citizen lady who took me into her house to give me either tea, coffee, scones, even a frozen Sara Lee cheesecake that I ate frozen, just to get a conversation going with those ladies who started to recommend me.
Mm.
And I did a rental here, and I did my first listing here, and it was disastrous because for 3 weeks I ended up listing 14 listings. Now you would think that's great, but in actuality, I only sold one home out of 14.
Mm.
And I said, I hate this business. And about another 6 months went by. Again, no money. 6 months, and it was a terrible time. Thank God that I lived with my mom, because my mom supported me.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it like that, but she did. That's the truth.
I mean, that's how most people should start or can start. You utilize the advantage that you have right there. You're 19, 20 years old. You don't have you don't have a lot of expenses, and
today's agent is different because today's agent has to have a little skin in the game, and I always advise have at least 6 to 12 months worth of salary before you come into this business full time. If you have a part-time job and you want to do the business part-time, which is kind of rough for part-timers, but I always say to part-timers, if you have a full-time attitude toward this business, you can do the business part-time. But if you don't have that attitude, you can't do the business at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be very careful. You have to see, I like to do consultations with pre-licensees before they become licensed in this business, even before they go to school. Like, I don't understand why real estate schools don't do like an orientation and say, look, this is what the reality is versus your fantasy. And let's separate, the men from the boys and the girls from the women. And let's just see if you are, not relationship material, but relationship material, because it's about relationships, right?
The cynic in me says that they don't do that because they would weed people out. That
all
wouldn't
about
pay
the
them,
money.
right?
It's political. Again, in that I think my whole life has been political. My whole career, and it's something that we need to change that narrative. We need to change the steps of becoming a real estate agent. That's why we have so many real estate agents drop out in their first year, because they're in their first year. It's like they don't see these challenges. They feel the struggle, but they don't meet the challenges of their business.
The reality doesn't meet the expectations that they have in their head.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's wrong with real estate today. I mean, we have over 70,000 agents in the state of New York. Right?
How many of them are, solid producing agents?
28,000 or 29,000 here on Long Island, and only 5,000 are doing the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest are doing, at least in this country, the average real estate agent is doing one sale
a year.
So you got to figure if your aunt or your uncle or a relative says, I'm going to sell my house, and then you get into real estate to sell that one house, what have you done? What service did you give your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your father? What service did you give them? The fact that you sold them their house and to save that money, why not refer that sale, that listing, to a guy like me and take like a little referral fee as a licensed agent working as a referral agent, and let the true professional work for mom and dad and show them that they can get more money, by, working with a full-time licensed agent.
They're thinking it's their ticket in, right? They're going to make their first commission,
Right.
or maybe save their parents or their family member or their loved one some money in the process. But that's something in general that we see across the board in many businesses. I was just talking to one of our clients that's in design and build. So they design and build homes, certain areas in the home. And one of their clients or potential clients was a restaurant that wanted to do a renovation. So they just bought a brand new location. They want to renovate it, open in 6 months. They put together the plan. I'm making up numbers, $500,000, right? This is the plan. We're going to renovate the place. Right. It's going to be ready to open 6 months from now. They went out and got another quote for $400,000. So they went with that quote, but it didn't get done for 18 months. So now you're sitting for an extra year unopened. What are you losing with that potential? Right? It's the same thing with someone who's not referring that home to you to be a referral agent. They think they're saving money, but at the end of the day, they're wasting time, and they're probably not getting top dollar for that home.
Right.
So it's the same.
And it is a penny, what is it, the expression, penny foolish or pound foolish? A penny wise and a pound foolish. It's ridiculous how people have this mindset that they're going to save this, they're going to save that. And I have to tell you, when shortly after my frustrations and my struggles to become a real estate agent had passed, there was a man that walked into our office, and he was dressed in overalls, and he had 5 o'clock shadow, and nobody wanted to service him. And I got up and I said, let me say hello to the guy. I said, does anybody want him? No, Joe, it's all yours. And and this man launched my career, because through his listings, he taught me how to service people, service real estate in general. And if had it not been for Tom and Maria Cunningham, and I give them kudos because they're one of my best clients. They're friends, and they just recently bought a condo from me 37 years later. So I sold all of their 5 two-family homes. They sold them. They lived upstate New York, and they wanted a summer place last year, and they came back full circle, and we sold them a nice oceanfront 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it was great. Had it not been for Tom and Maria, I wouldn't be sitting probably where I sat, because they were the first people that launched my career with their 5 investment properties. And I learned at that point how to sell homes in a down market, how to sell homes in a challenging market, because you're talking about 89, 90, 91. Those were the years where I had to, I was given the task of selling their homes, in addition to the other listings that I had. And then I learned how to be a listing agent there. Whereas a lot of agents, they proclaim to list property and they know what to do, but they fail in their mission because they don't know like all the steps that I took as a new agent. Mm-hmm. They immediately throw it on social media and they say, here, a magic wand, go in and sell this house, but there's no magic wand to selling a home. There's expertise. There's not, I didn't go to school for marketing. I didn't understand what marketing was until I got into real estate. Yeah. So the challenges and the struggles that I went through even back then, new agents go through it today. And, I just want to be one of those guys that now, in my later years in this career, which I always tell people I haven't even fired all the cylinders yet. That's how much energy I have toward this business. I want to pour into agents out there who want this business desperately, for themselves. And that's where, coaching, instructing still takes an immediate, challenge. And I put myself at the forefront of instructing and coaching. I get frustrated with the brokerage community because they still don't want an agent like me speaking in their brokerages. And that frustrates me because, I'm not here to recruit anybody. I'm here to pour into your agents, and I'm here to give them the value that they need, because you're not doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they're the Charlie Brown teacher, you know, that the wah, 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 you know, they're listening to that, and I think that if they had a speaker like myself motivating them, I think I can make the difference for them.
Well, talk to me a little bit about Sinnona Speaks and what your mission is with that, because we talked briefly beforehand, but
Yeah.
now we're just kind of jumping right into it. So give us a little background on what it is and why you're doing this.
Well, I started Sinnona Speaks as a seminar type of speaking business in 2009. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go around and I'm going to just talk about energy, green. And I got my energy and green audit certification. And I liked it because I was teaching people how to go green. I was teaching agents, I was teaching people in general, consumers. And I did it as a means to make some money, intertwine real estate. Remember, I've gone through several ups and downs of the market. So this was down market, 2008, 2009, and we're in a recession, and I'm like trying to scramble to see what kind of avenue I could possibly go down without leaving real estate. You know, there were several years where I wanted to leave real estate, not pursue it, because when the good times are here, you make money. When the bad times are here, you either scramble or, as I say today, you have to pivot from one end to the other end of the business. So I started this speaking career as seminars to educate agents, and I still have that mission with Sinnona Speaks today, renaming it Sinnona Speaks because, when Sinnona speaks, people must listen. Because they're listening to a lot of education, listening to a lot of experience, and those principles of the past are still good today. I still take principles of my first mentors in real estate, Tom Hopkins, Brian Buffini, Les Brown, Tony Robbins. I still take their principles and I still bring them to the forefront of my business, and poof, here I am, successful. Whereas other people, I'll do it my way. And Sinnona Speaks teaches a different methodology. I've taken all their methodologies and put them together with mine, and I brought them here, right here into Sinnona Speaks. And if you want, I don't like coaching. I like instructing. I like speaking at people's events and people's offices if they let me. And there's the disconnect, because a lot of these brokers are so threatened by a guy like me who has all this knowledge. You know, knowledge is power, and it's powerful. But the agents, the brokers that are out there, if you're so worried about losing your agents, you're going to lose your agents, because let's face it, they're gonna fly wherever they need to fly to get that information, especially that golden shiny object syndrome that they have in front of them. They need somebody to coach them the proper way or instruct them the proper way. And I think it also boils down to the agents too. 50% of the agents must do the business at hand. They don't. They don't do it. They don't put a lot of effort. I think because they think there's a magic wand.
So it just goes back to the expectations that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
They just think, oh, this is going to be easy. And then it doesn't happen that way, and they're done.
Yeah. And if they don't see a result, they'll run to the next person that's speaking their language. Oh, if I study his methodologies, or if I buy her kit, I'll be that $1 million person. That's why a lot of motivational speakers get rich today, because they're out there selling their coaching programs, and it's until you implement their strategies and make them your own. Because again, imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
They try to be like the Buffinis and the Hopkinses and the Tony Robbinses and the Les Browns. Even in the speaking world, I can't be Les Brown or Tony Robbins or Brian Buffini. I mean, they started somewhere.
Hmm.
As I am here, I'm building my own identity with Sinnona Speaks,
Well,
which is fun.
I think the great thing about those individuals that you're naming, and I don't know much about them, but is that they did something and now they get to speak about it.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who want to go the other route, which is let me talk about it and let me talk it into existence, right? Let me utilize social media to grow this thing that I'm not doing it yet, but if I put enough out there, I can then get a little bit and build up from there. So I think what's unique about the way that you're approaching it is you've done it for 37 years. And now you're talking about it. I mean, you didn't wait 37 years to start talking about it and start educating, but you have that 37 years of experience that now is underneath your belt, all these methodologies behind it that you've culminated into Sinnona Speaks and what you do, where you're not just like selling a course, you're teaching from experience, you're instructing, as you said.
And my business partner, who's also a motivational speaker, we talk about the struggles of how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't talk about their struggles, so that they make it look like it was easy. And that gives the perception to those agents that, oh, well, if he got here this way, I can get here just listing my 1 or 2 houses a year. And it's not that simple. It was a struggle to get here. I gave you a little taste of it, but I didn't tell you those nights when, I stood up at night wondering where my next meal was going to be. Yeah. How about as an owner-broker? My goodness, as an owner-broker, I can identify with other owner-brokers. I call it the voices in your head. You wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, you say, I got to pay this bill and this bill and this bill and keep the lights on. And a lot of agents don't understand that when they look at their splits and they want more splits, for example. There's a lot of disconnect there because there's a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding, a lack of compassion. There's also an ignorance that if I continue to give an agent as a broker, if I continue to give them a certificate of recognition, or if I give them a meal, let's take everybody out. Let's take all the top producers out for dinner. That's wonderful. That's great. But what else are you going to give these agents? Are you giving them that knowledge, that know-how? Are you letting a guy like me speak to them and say, come on, guys, you gotta do something. Let's change your mindset. And I've used a lot of the mindset approaches in the last 5 years because as my other mentor, Nick Santanastasso, says, if you change the mindset, you can also reset it, to keep working for you. You can keep going with this. And that's one thing I like about Nick is that you can reset this business anytime you want. And that's where I took his philosophies. And again, I applied it toward my own speaking business. And I said, you know what, guys? Don't kill yourselves. Don't kick yourselves in the ass today and say, I will never be a great real estate agent, because that's all mindset approach. That's telling yourself that you can fail, whereas I say you can win this. I think of myself as that 19-year-old back then saying, I'll never be as good as so-and-so. I'll never be as good. Well, I didn't want to be. As soon as I realized I couldn't be him and I couldn't be her, I decided to just be me, and it's paid off successfully.
So you mentioned before, your methodology and everything is different. I know obviously this is what you talk about when you get on stage, so I don't know how much of it you want to talk about here in this open platform. But what makes your methodology different? What makes you unique?
I'm real. I'm a real person on that stage, and I'm talking to agents that want to hear realism and not fantasy. When you have likability, it's either because you've sold them on, how you got here, which is my story, how the struggles, which is my story, or you're selling them on this fantasy and this likability, that everyone likes me and everyone, worships me and who I am. That's not me. Joe Sinnona is a speaker in the speaker world, finding his world, finding his niche, finding his stage. And a lot of more agents are listening, which is nice. And they're starting to get it that you have to work hard. You have to challenge yourself every day to be the best version of yourself. And if that means that you have to time block a little bit better, or you have to organize yourself, like I'll give you an example, which blows my mind, is that agents spend 3-4 hours at a gym, but won't do any content at the gym to help their business so that when they're at the gym, they could refer themselves out to the people that are around them, put their business cards even at the gym, make relationships happen. You see how many things I dissected just from that 3-4 hour, but they'll spend 3-4 hours during the day wasting time making themselves look good because you know what? They're not busy. They're not doing the business. They'd rather be at a gym working out than to go door to door. Mm-hmm. This is the time, by the way, in the cold weather, right? Not in the spring when everybody else is doing it. I have this philosophy that I tell my daughter this all the time. I go, Victoria, if everybody's jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge, you don't want to be one of those people following. You want to be a leader, leading and doing something different. So right now, everybody's not going door to door. It's the winter time. Go door to door.
Social media makes it easy. So people are investing in that side of things, but they're losing the personal touch.
Pivot. I say pivot. If this is not working, go to this one. You got to pivot until you find the oil that's under the ground. And there is a lot of oil.
I mean, you said you're not a marketer, but that sounds like a marketer to me. You're going where the attention is underpriced, underserved, right? There's I don't know if you know who Gary Vee is.
Sure.
Gary Vee is a big proponent of following the attention or finding that new trend. And one of the things he talks about at this time of year with the Super Bowl coming up in a couple of months is how the Super Bowl is underpriced attention, right? He said it's so funny that he does this digital marketing agency and he's got all these people doing TikTok and LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram ads, but to him, the best deal in all of marketing is a television commercial that plays one time on the Super Bowl because of the underpriced attention that you're getting for that. You're finding that in door to door in cold winter months.
Yeah, and I have to think about all the seasons and all the things that are happening in society, so that I can play on that a little bit. Because, like, I'll give you a good example. Good Morning America takes a national forecast of real estate. How is it going? And they'll say the market is down, and everybody starts to speak that language. I was thinking about it this morning. I was saying to myself, my God, the newscasters say the same thing to us every day. If you ever read a book, and this is where me as an English major takes over, if you ever read a book called Brave New World.
I have not.
It's an excellent read. It's a science fiction book, Aldous Huxley. It was banned in this country in 1957, right? Because it forces people to think about what their government, what everybody would lead you to believe what's happening, right? Whether it's government, whether it's real estate. But if I'm saying the same thing to you, and I have the same narration, and I'm telling you the market is dead here in Huntington or there in Long Beach, if I'm telling you that, it's not going to sink in until about 13 times, 14 times that I tell you that, right? Now, think about the news. The news tells you the interest rates are at 6.5%, for example, and the market is not moving and it's slow. And You go back to your buyers, you go back to your sellers, you're repeating the same thing you heard. And now that becomes a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that a different narrative has to come out of every real estate agent's mouth today. And you know who's speaking differently? Are the one percenters. The one percenters, like myself, do not worry about what's happening on Good Morning America. Do not say the same things that people are talking about in real estate. We just do our work and we just do our thing. And our thing is to do all the things that you, Mr. Real Estate Agent or Mrs. Real Estate Agent, are not doing. And that's why you're not successful and I am.
I hear it all the time. Oh, the economy's down, or the government shutdown
Right.
is affecting this or affecting that. Sure, maybe on a macro scale, on a big scale, sure, it is affecting it.
But if you start to
But
believe
does it
that,
have to affect you? As in,
right.
oh, great, the economy's down, so I should just expect my business to be down 30% this year?
And
Why
if
has
you
it grown 30%?
And if you believe that,
Mm-hmm.
right, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, Aldous Huxley was a genius when he wrote that, people would stand in this brave new world with this television, and the television was actually programming their thoughts, their mindset. And aren't we being
That's
programmed
reality,
today?
right? That's
right?
reality.
And the other one was Fahrenheit 451 by
Mhm.
Ray Bradbury.
That I've read.
Those two were my excellent reads. And if you want to look at the reality of what's happening today, 1984, Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, the three are that's what we're living today in society. So now you take that philosophy and you go out and you say to the owner, hey, you know what? I can help you get the highest and best price. With confidence in your words. I can do this. There's a strategy. There's a methodology that I use. And if you trust me, see, you got to think about the fiduciary principles of our business. See, that's another thing we realtors do not focus on. If we focused on the fiduciary responsibilities, the trust, please trust me. I know what I'm doing. I've been in this business for over 30 years. I can tell you this is not the way to market your house. You don't want to be held hostage by one buyer. If you put this house up at high in the price sky, let's try to work a marketing strategy. Mr. Buyer, look at all those houses that have been on the market for so long. They're prime and ready to hear your offer now. Stop going to these open houses where, you're actually the bait. You're the bait for them. They want to catch you as the fish, because they want you to overbid on that house. They want to get you into a bidding war. Let's go after the ones that are not having open houses. That's my strategy. That's my secret sauce of selling. But agents hear that and they go, "Oh my God, that's great. That's a wonderful strategy." They don't apply that into their.
You can learn.
Yeah.
You can learn in today's environment, right? You can learn every single day, every single hour of every single day until you do something with that.
If I was to take
matter.
away your livelihood tomorrow, and this is another one of the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, Stephen Covey, right?
Got that book in the other room.
But the only habit I know is think with the end in mind, right? Because it's such a great habit, that I think always with the end in mind. If I was to take away your livelihood and take away everything, how would you survive? Not everybody lives with their mother and father or, is self-sufficient. People are they're struggling in this business. So
You're creating self-sufficient people.
Oh yeah. But we're creating more dependent people. We can't buy a house without mommy and daddy's assistance anymore, or the grandpa and grandma's got to give me their inheritance. We're not able to do the things because, as agents, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more of an introverted society of agents entering our business, and that's bad. It's bad because they don't know how to market. They don't know how to socialize. they don't know how to speak, and they don't want to think. And it's a generation of confusion right here and that's why a lot of people stay in this business until they're 90 years old and they're dead, because they're afraid to pass on the torch to another generation that they feel is not ready for what the challenges.
Do you feel that the next generation isn't ready? Because you said to me before the cameras were rolling, or maybe it was while the cameras were rolling, but I think it was before, that eventually when you retire, blah, blah, blah. And you said, but I'd probably never retire, because you said that's what agents do. Agents, they just keep working until they die.
I think they don't retire. I mean, I certainly have a plan for my retirement, which is to, let go of some of the new business and give it to agents out there, and just work off of my referrals. But I don't think agents typically retire, because their mindset is that they are afraid that the new generation of realtors just doesn't cut it. There are some agents out there, I got to tell you, there's some really good, solid, strong Gen Ys, Gen Zs, millennials that are in our business that are really good at what they do. And I don't want to paint them all with the same brush, but they got to get a lot of them have to get their act together and really be that professional person that the consumer is looking for. Because at the end of the day, we're going to have more lawsuits in the National Association of Realtors in general, because we're not taking the time to educate those people. It comes back down to education, doesn't it? So there is a challenge that I put forth to every broker, every manager out there, and that is allow someone like me into your offices to talk to them, to get one-on-one with every single solitary agent who just needs that boost, just needs that opportunity.
And that in turn is going to help their business as well.
Yeah, it will. It'll grow their business exponentially, and it will actually put a whole new mark on and a whole new generation at rest to know that the future can be brighter, if they trust. See how I ask for the public's trust, but I'm asking for the broker's trust, and I'm asking for the agents to trust the process, that what we're bringing to the center of the table is the knowledge that they need, and they actually come to that table with more confidence, but grab the trust and hang on to it. Grab that knowledge and hang on to it.
Yeah. So beside brokers inviting you into their space to educate their teams and their agents, what's the next event? Where can people come see you speak?
I'm using social media as a platform to reach as many agents as I can from across the country. I have 2 agents coming to my Lead to List 7 event. This is the 7th time that I'm going to be doing this. This is also a day of education, 2 hours of CE, January 8th, 2026. We're going to have a 10-agent panel talk on the laws of agency. And we're going to have Michael Collier from Orlando, Florida, speak on the future of real estate, myself as the host, Ben Lavender as the co-host, with Karina Tom and Bridget Malik and Dawn Acevedo. Those are our sponsors. And then we're going to have Phil Stringer, our keynote at the end, talk about AI. We're going to talk about the future. That's the theme of this year's event. It's called Lead to List 7, The Future is Now. And when we talk about that, the future is now, look what's happening in our society. Look at everything in general. The future is now, and we need to grab a hold of it, and we need to embrace it, and we need to really make the best of it, because, our real estate careers all depend on it.
Where is that taking place, and what can people expect to walk away with having come to that event?
It's going to be at Roma View caterers in Howard Beach, Queens on January 8th, 2026. And I think what people will take away from it is not only will they be motivated and change their mindset for the new year, because I have it always at the beginning of the year as a kickoff to their business, as a thrust to bring, that value into their business. But I think they're going to walk away with certainly the knowledge of other agents on that panel that are going to really, spill their guts pretty much about their secret sauce and what it takes to be a successful agent through the laws of agency. We have 2 agents coming from Seattle, Washington, and North Carolina. I honor these agents every year. I feel like, what's that guy's name? Steve something from Studio 54. He used to go out and he used to pick all his people that he ever wanted in his club. Well, I picked these agents based on their community, they give back to their communities, their production, their spirit of real estate, how they market themselves, their social media. That's how I find them. And they're always honored to be a speaker at my events. We also have Perry Pappas and Bridget Malik co-moderating this panel. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be an awesome time. We have also sponsors that stay in the room with us, because they're learning as well the interaction between agent and sponsor and vendor. And it's going to be great. You're going to be one of our videographers for the day. And you're going to see the whole energy. You're going to feel the energy and the spirit of that entire event. And it's been a pleasure to put on at least 6 of them. I wasn't going to do any more after 6, but then everyone has been begging me to do 7, and it looks like I'm going to be doing 8 and 9 and 10. Who knows? I don't know. But I love it. I love it because truly this is what Sinnona Speaks is about. It's about in empowering people, and it's about bringing that value and pouring into the agents, which I'm really looking forward to doing for the rest of my career.
I'm excited to see it come to life.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Hey,
if somebody does want to get in touch with you either before or after that event, maybe they're watching this in February instead of January, how can they reach out?
They can go to any of my social media platforms on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. It's under Sinnona Speaks, and my phone number is 516-375-8162. I hope it doesn't blow up too much now that I've given my cell phone. But Sinnona Speaks is an organization that you're going to want at your next event to speak on any topic: keynotes, mindset, listings, real estate, struggling. I have a great keynote called The Candle in the Wind about how I got here. And it's not just from real estate, it's personal. And I think people leave there with a sense of inspiration.
I can say, in getting to know you briefly in the past couple conversations that we've had, you are a great storyteller. And you said it earlier in this interview. It's very exciting to listen to you and hear your stories, and I'm sure that you have many more of them to tell. So I'm excited to hear more of them as we get to know each other even further.
I guess I've just been dubbed the storyteller instructor.
I think you did it yourself.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.